Hi, welcome to this video about running your Keycloak instance in Azure, a development test instance. And I'm doing this video because I saw interest in the argument in the subject of OpenID Connect and OAuth 2. So if you want to try and if you want to experiment with your own identity provider, Keycloak is probably the best choice you can do. But in a lot of tutorial I saw on the internet, people show you how you can get your Keycloak development instance running in a very few steps in a Docker, and it's fantastic. But quite often, those tutorials forget the HTTPS, the transport level security, the TLS part, and make you work with the standard port 8080 not encrypted HTTP traffic. And I think that even if you are in the development phase of your application, it's better to stick with the highest security and working only with HTTPS enabled Keycloak server. The most common risk is you see this is a piece of ASP.NET example, and the problem is if you need to access and use an identity provider in OEDC, in OpenID Connect, that has no HTTPS, you need to disable this RequireHttpsMetadata metadata setting. And the documentation says that this should be kept to true. You can put to false if you are in developing environment, but the risk is there's a high probability that developer left this setting to false even when they deploy the application. So I'd like very much developer, even if they are developing on a test instance of Keycloak, they stick to the highest security. So the question is how I can create an instance of Keycloak that responds in HTTPS, and I don't want to spend a lot of time maintaining and keeping up and running. I just want the fastest way to have a demo or a developed version of Keycloak running where I can test my application, but with HTTPS. I've already done a post on my blog, but I thought that a video could be better and can explain better the step needed to obtain the results. So the solution is simple. I'm going on my Azure account and I'm going to the app services, and I want to create a new app services. So you can see I already have some web app with Keycloak app running. I choose the resource group. I can create a new resource group, but for now, I can simply use a Keycloak resource group I already have. I need to find one name that is free because it will have a public DNS of Keycloak 1234.azurewebsite.net, so it must be unique. And I choose to run in Docker container, and Linux is perfect. So now I can choose my plan. I already have a plan, so I can go next, choose Docker. And I have a Docker Compose. It's in preview, but works perfectly. I want to take my image from Docker Hub because I will use the standard JBoss image. And I need to choose the configuration file. I already have a configuration file. You can see this. It's a really simple configuration file. We will see in the detail once the resource is created. And then I can skip all the other part and just review and create. And now I need only to wait, press create button and wait for the resource to be created. And then I need to do a very, very little configuration. And you will see that with only 3 other settings, the resource is up and running and it's perfectly working. Now the resource was created and I have a good URL with HTTPS. So as you can see, I didn't do anything to manage HTTPS. It's a things that the app services in Azure does automatically. They found that the container contains support and 8080, and it translates the traffic to HTTPS going outside your instance. So I have now a really nice public URL. I can navigate and I can click. But probably what you got is it needs a little bit of time to start, but the problem is you need to do some other configuration because in this situation the container won't work properly, and you see you have an application error. But I show you how you can fix this. You just need to go to the configuration section. You can see here in the left, we have the settings configuration, and you have all the application settings. You can press plus to add settings, and I've added a series of settings. First of all, you need to take the website enable app service storage. It is basically set to false. You need to set to true, and I'll show you in a moment why this is important. So it's okay. Then you need to specify a Keycloak user, and I choose admin. Then a Keycloak password, and it's a randomly generated password from my password generator. So you generate the first password for the user admin. And then really, really important, Keycloak frontend URL. Because actually, the instance of Keycloak running in a container, it believes that it runs in the localhost with 8080. So it does not know how it is exposed to the public. You need to specify the URL of your app services followed by the /auth. And this will configure Keycloak to be aware that this is its public address. Now, after you save all this configuration, you can just press save and continue, and this will restart the whole container. It will reconfigure and everything. It will need a little bit of time, usually 1 minute, and then your instance should be ready to be used. In the meanwhile, while the container is up and it's configuring itself, you can also go to Deployment Center, because in Deployment Center, you can change deployment settings. So we're not going to change anything, but actually, I want to comment this particular settings. So, when you create a test instance of Keycloak, not using a real database, it will use an internal database called H2. But the problem is, each time the container got destroyed and recreated, you lose all the data. So the problem is, if you stop this instance in app services, the underlying infrastructure destroy the virtual machine and destroy the container. So when the container starts again, you lose all your data. So since I'm using the standard JBoss Keycloak latest image, you need to preserve the data in opt JBoss Keycloak standalone data. And this is the folder where Keycloak stores its internal database. And this particular syntax, web app storage home/data, it is used to specify the home folder of the virtual machine that is hosting the container. Because with this with this setting, and also if you set to true the particular configuration, and I'm going to show you this website enable app service storage, it means that the home folder of the Linux machine that is hosting the Docker container will be saved between rebooting. So if I'm going to stop this container for a long time, when the container starts again, it can find all the data of the previous run in the very same data. So it is going to preserve data. And even if it's a test instance, this is important, because if you are going to configure your test instance, it's particularly annoying getting to reconfigure each time you stop the container and you restart. Even if usually it is a low-cost solution, so you can keep running indefinitely, it will be very nice to have it saved. So that's the correct way to do the persistence using the web app storage home special directory. Another interesting thing, you can look at the logs in the logs tab. So you can look at what is going on behind the scenes. So it seems that my container is finally started. You can also go to the monitoring log stream. You need to wait a little bit, and after a little bit, it will connect to the instance and it will show you the live log stream for the instance. But yeah, what I'm interested to is that's the URL. I'm refreshing, and okay, Keycloak is up and running. So now you can click the administration console, and I'm just checking that everything is working correctly. So this is my user admin, and then I can go to my configuration, and I'm copying the password. So it needs a little bit for loading the page. Okay, that's my password. I create a password, I paste the password, and I'm in. This is my perfectly valid Keycloak instance up and running. I can add a realm called demo and to show that everything is working correctly. And the nice thing is it's served in HTTPS, and the certificate is handled by Azure. So if you check, you can see the connection is secure, and the certification is it's handled by the Microsoft Corporation. So you see, in very few click and in less than 5 minutes, you can have a public instance of Keycloak up and running in HTTPS, and it will cost a few bucks. If you're curious about the cost, you can go to the overview page and click the app service plan. So the app service plan is the plan that can host one or more application services. So when I show you the service plan, you see I'm actually running on a dev test. So it's a B. It's a dev test for less demanding workload. So it's quite a bit economic. It's 21 euros at a month, but this is not the cost for the instance of Keycloak. This is the cost for the whole app service plan, and you can host multiple app services onto this plan. Clearly, the more app services you're gonna host, the more slow it's gonna run, because each app services requires resources to run. And if you just want to run a minimal instance, just your only instance of Keycloak, you can use even the B1 that is 11 euro a month. So it is a real low cost if you want, if it's enough to maintain a dev environment for Keycloak for your team to test, given that thanks to this thing, you have a real HTTPS public enabled Keycloak test instance. So you have the ability to test with every secure measure available, not using local HTTP, and also using an instance that is available to all members of the team. And I hope this video was good. And let me know if you want to know more about Keycloak or OpenID Connect and OAuth stuff. Bye-bye.